So as I'm recording these videos, we've done 2 videos so far. This is the 3rd. I'm starting to get some videos here. And if I look at my details, you could see MP4, MP4, WAV, MP4. And this is the one that's recording right now. And these are the ones that we just recorded. So I want to start naming these to make sure that, I keep track of them. So this first one, I'm just going to do that will allow me to create 999 videos and keep them in sequential order. That's video 01. I could tell it's recorded today at this time. That was the first one. It came before this one. 11:15 comes before 11:24. But 001, I'm now going to name this. What did we do in the first video?
We were checking the sound.
Setting up
the
system audio and OBS versus Camtasia. So we set up OBS, and we also talked about the difference between OBS and Camtasia. So that's the first one. And action can't be completed because the file is open in Adobe Premiere. Okay, let's go to Adobe Premiere, and we'll close this, and now we'll hit try again, and there we go. And so now we'll name this one 002. And what did we do in this video?
We did mono to stereo.
Mono to stereo in Premiere. And so just making videos like this when you're recording classes or helping people, making videos and then just pushing these out to YouTube will help you grow your social media following, and it'll help other people and they'll be able to learn from you. And this is just informal teaching where we're just sort of rambling. We're definitely conveying good information and helping people. But then we could also tell people, you could tell people about your course. You could say, hey, if you liked what we just did, you could come to Greater Commons and you could check out my course and take my courses. And so that's a good way to create synergies with your efforts. As you're teaching people in person, you could record it. And those are informal teachings. You could just put those up on YouTube and you could help others. And you could also promote your courses where then people watch your YouTube videos and they like your vibe, they like how you teach, or they're interested in the subject. Then they could go take your course because in the video you also told them about your course. And so that's a really good way to help others and at the same time promote your trainings. And the difference between a YouTube video and like a course video is that a YouTube video is more informal, it's more rambling. You haven't really sat down and thought about the curriculum and got it into like a produced format where even if it's casual and you're hanging out drinking a beer when you record your course video, you still made sure that, okay, that video is higher caliber quality and I'm not wasting people's time. And that's worthy of being in a course, whereas YouTube is just sort of a catch-all, and it's not in a sequential order from beginning to end for an entire course curriculum. It's just like, hey, here's one video. So that's the difference between a YouTube video and a course video. Okie dokie. So we are now going to be working with, we named our files, and now we're going to start actually editing Nancy's files. And so we're going to start Adobe Premiere again. And so I'm just going to type in Premiere down here and launch Premiere. And we're going to do a new project. And we're going to store this. So we give it a name. We'll do that in a second. But we're going to store this wherever our files are. And so these are going to be under our S drive here. And courses created and new. And our S drive and videos for courses and Nancy Holland, and here are her files. And this is the first one, Hiring Laws Introduction. And so that's where I want this Adobe Premiere file to be stored because it's associated with this video. So the raw files will be in here, and then also the file for editing it will be in there. And so I'm going to just select that folder, and then I'm going to call this one 001 and Intro to Hiring Laws, and then hit enter. And so now we're ready to bring in those videos and start working with them. So I'm going to go to my S drive and videos for courses and Nancy Holland and Hiring Laws, and here's the file we just created. And here we have a PowerPoint, and here we have an MTS file, and we have an MP4 file. So the MP4 probably came from OBS, and that looks like OBS file naming conventions. And this one probably came from the Canon camera.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have to probably add a plug-in to Adobe Premiere here in a second so it knows how to work with an MTS file. I forget which camera you're using. Do you remember? Canon?
Canon.
And is it a new one or one you had?
It's one I had.
Okay, so that's what's happening. Is Dolby codec must be installed to use this feature. Clicking OK will install and enable this codec for immediate use. So I'm just going to click OK. But older cameras had different file formats. Newer cameras will kick out to MP4. But now we did that and we're able to see the video file. And so now I'm just going to open this up and kind of look at things and see what we have. And so the video file is, these are both the same frame rate, which is great. You want to try to match up the frame rate on all your videos. And the sound is the same, which is great. You want to try to match up the kilohertz, the sound on all your videos.
How about the mono right there?
Yeah, and this one is mono, so that's needs to be changed. So we just learned in the previous video we could go to edit and clip, modify clip, and audio channels. And so we're going to take this to stereo, and we're going to say, hey, the right is going to be from the same channel, source channel 1, and so that's good. And so now we've got that mono mapped. And then this one is 3840 by 2160. So we want to produce to 1920 by 1080. So her screen was recorded at a higher resolution. So I'm going to drag this clip over first to the timeline since it's 1920 by 1080. And that'll be the clip of the instructor. So I'm just going to drag that and drop it. And so there's Nancy. And now that that's there, I'm going to shift it up. So I'm going to bring it up to there and shift this one down. So we've got that on video track 2, and we have this one on audio track 2. The next one I bring in, I want to be on audio 1 and video 1, because I want the instructor to be on top of the screen. So this video is a stacking order. This video is actually in the timeline going to be on top of the desktop, the screen recording. But what this did is it created this file 00015. So I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it 001 Intro to Hiring. And you'll see that name pop up over here on the sequence, the clip in the timeline. And now I'm ready to bring over this file here, and if we look at this sequence, just to show you this, if we look at the sequence and look at sequence settings, we'll see that it is at 1920 by 1080. So that's good. And so 29.97 frames per second, 48 kilohertz. And so that's for this sequence, Intro to Hiring. We're making a new video clip here. But now I'm going to bring in the desktop recording, which is this one. And you could rename these if you want. So if I wanted to, I could call this, desktop. And if I wanted to, I could put camera in front of that. It's good to leave this original file name because that's the file it's associated with. And so I'm going to drag that and just drop that here. And so now this one, if I was to click the eyeball off here, I'll see the desktop, but we're really zoomed in, because we've taken something which is 3840 by 2160 and we're showing it on a screen which is 1920 by 1080, so we're only seeing part of it. So we now need to compress this down to 1920 by 1080, and to do that I'm going to make sure that this clip is selected, and I'm going to go up to Sequence and Sequence Settings, and I'm going to change, if all was good, I would be changing that to 1920 by 1080. And maybe I need to do that before I drop it. So I'm going to delete this and then select this one right here and then go to Sequence Settings, and I can't even select Sequence Settings there, so let me bring that back out here and play with this for a second. Lord of video editing, Shin, I request your assistance again, please. So here's the desktop. It's the 4K, and then here's our screen. Our sequence is 1920 by 1080, so I need to compress that. So I select this one, and I go to Sequence and Sequence Settings to bring it down to 1920 by 1080, and I can't edit it. Any thoughts on that?
Let's see. The desktop is at that. Usually I convert this before I add any other videos. So that should allow you to.
Maybe, what I need to do is go to Effect Controls. Is that it?
No.
And do 50%? I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Yeah.
I bring
Yeah,
this to 50.
Yeah, you can do that.
And now that's compressed in, right?
Yep.
So let's see. And if we click on the editor, Yeah, so that's fitting perfectly in there, and 960 by 540. So I was just getting confused. I was trying to change the sequence instead of just compressing it. So cool. Thank you for helping me figure that out. So let me review that with you and show you what we just did. And so I'm going to step back and take this clip out. And again, here's the difference between finding something on YouTube and a course video. If this was a video for a course, I would have like thrown this recording away and then re-recorded it so that I didn't waste a minute of your time as we figured that out to really show you, hey, this is how you do it. And in the course, I would have just been like, this is how you do it. Though sometimes it could be instructive to see somebody figure things out. This video, it's going on YouTube, I'm leaving it. So we got the instructor camera there, and our sequence is 1920 by 1080. And now we're going to bring in the desktop. So I'm going to bring the desktop in. And with the desktop selected, I'm going to go to here. Since this is selected, I could go to Effect Controls. And I changed this from Fit to 25% because that's really big. And I'm just going to scale this down from 100% down to 50%. And now that's fitting in there perfectly, 1920 by 1080. Because 1920 by 1080, if you record at 4K, which is 3840 by 2160, when you say compress that to 50%, it fits perfectly in 1920 by 1080. And this setting here, 960 by 540, perfectly fits it into the screen. So you want to remember that number, write it down, 960 by 540, because as you're editing, you'll sometimes need to get this recentered again, and you just type in 960 by 540 right there. Cool. Now I'm going to turn, actually I think I'll call this video good because we're at 11 minutes, and I'll just say setting up the environment before we start editing. So that's setting up the environment in Premiere.